right now it seems to be actually quite beautiful. But it was very, very hot and windy and very, very cold during the winter.
What a lot of people don't understand is the people lost everything.
It was like a prison camp. There was no reason for us to be there, but they decided that somehow we were dangerous. And we, of course, weren't dangerous.
Down this long gravel road in Grenada, Colorado, sits dozens of buildings nearly lost to time. Amache, known as Camp Amache to some, was no place for adults, let alone children. But for 3 years, Americans of Japanese descent were forced from their homes and into places like these throughout the western parts of the United States.
My name is Robert Bob Fuchigami, and I live in Evergreen, Colorado. Well, I was born in Marysville, California, and in 1936 we moved to Yuba City, California, and I was going to an elementary school. We had a 20-acre fruit and vegetable farm. I was number 7 of 8 children. We were loyal, patriotic Americans like everybody else, living ordinary lives. And then Pearl Harbor came along. And we were as surprised as anyone, I guess. And then things were pretty much the same until February, and President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
And it gave power to the military to do whatever they wanted to do. And then, of course, they decided they wanted to move all of us, parents and children. I used to show this to the students when they go to classrooms, and I'd say, I'll give you $50 if you could find the word citizen in there. They never told the public that they were putting citizens into these concentration camps. They didn't call them concentration camps. They call them relocation centers. It says, they call them evacuees, must carry with them on departure for the reception center. Reception center. Bedding and linen, no mattress. Toilet articles, extra clothing, knives, forks, spoons, plates, bowls, cups for each member of the family. Limited to that which can be carried by the individual. Well, the explanation they gave us was military necessity. Well, that's a vague term whereby they could do whatever they wanted to do. So they used that term, and they gave us 6 days to get rid of everything we had. And it was hard to do. I mean, you have a lifetime accumulation of things. We found a man who was teaching at the high school who said he would take care of the farm, and he wrote out a lease arrangement, but he put in a clause that said it's an option to buy. That first year he exercised the option to buy, and he got everything. He got the home, all of the furnishings, he got the land, he got all the farm equipment, tractor.
As Bob and his family were forced from their home, the Fuchigamis were taken to Merced County Fairgrounds in California.
I was 11, and then I turned 12 as we went to Merced. They had built barracks, and if they didn't have enough room, they used horse stalls. And we lived there for about 3 months. And then they moved us in September to the camp in Colorado. They didn't tell us where we were going or what kind of conditions we were going to be in. When we were on the trains, they blocked off the windows so we couldn't see out, and so we really didn't know where we were, except we knew it was Colorado. They had told us that, Amache, the camp we were in, it was called the Grenada Relocation Center, but they changed the name to Amache. And we arrived at night, and they kept us on the trains because there was no lighting at the camp at that time. And so it wasn't until the morning that we looked out, and there were some trucks there, and we had to get on the truck, and it was about a mile from the town of Grenada. So what we saw at first was just a whole bunch of barracks. Each family was given a number. They issued these to us when we were getting ready to leave our homes to go to Merced, and we had to wear these, and then they would match the tag with our luggage. We tried to do what we could to make it into a community, because there's no one there to make it a community except us. Built a school. There were some so-called recreation buildings for each block, and it was not a great place to live. The military said, well, you're going to be here for the duration of the war, which, had no idea how long the war would be. My mother had a stroke. My father fell off a truck and broke his back. Those things might have happened, had we stayed on the farm, but I'm sure losing everything, I think that was part of what happened to my family, and then they never really recovered. You lose your feeling of self-worth and dignity. What happened to us, for the reasons that they use, could happen to any other group. What they did to us was a part of American history. And history there's a tendency to repeat things if you don't record history.
Coming up next, we introduce you to John Hopper, the man who spent 30 years preserving Amache's history.
My name is John Hopper, and we're at the Amache Museum in downtown Grenada, Colorado. And I am the director of the Amache Preservation Society. This is actual luggage that they would have brought, one person per bag. This guy actually used a tea crate because he could put more stuff in it. He was a tea importer, obviously.
For the past 30 years, John Hopper has worked to preserve the stories that go along with these items. Aside from volunteering and running the Amache Museum,
America, our hope is in you.
Hopper is also the principal at Grenada High School, where he teaches his students about Amache.
I first started doing this, it was kind of an educational thing. I grew up 60 miles from here. My mother worked with a Japanese American from Amache, so I knew a little bit about it. So we're going to do a project on it, living history of it, and interview people before they're gone. And it became more than that, and I became emotionally attached to the individuals and families that were here, and listening to their stories just overwhelmed me, and now it's a part of me. Certain individuals, families, depending on what they did in California or on the West Coast, would be separated. The father would be sent to Santa Fe, New Mexico, to a detention camp, and eventually tried, for no other reason than being a Methodist minister or a professor at Stanford University who taught Japanese. One individual, Methodist minister and a dentist, actually had a heart attack while in that detention center. The lady that was telling us that was, she said, I was 6 years old when my dad died in front of me. She said we were wealthy even coming out of the Depression. We were wealthy. We had everything. My dad gave me a doll almost every day, to nothing, and my dad dying. And she attributed it to the stress that he was under. And so, I mean, she has never forgotten that. She lives in Seattle today, but she has never ever forgotten that. So that's just one of the stories. The town of Grenada only had 500 residents in it. There was almost 7,500 up there. If you were to consider it as the concentration of people, it had the 10th largest concentration of people in the state of Colorado at the time.
One person who was a part of that concentration of people was Robert Hamada.
Okay, let me just find.
Robert's daughter and former wife are visiting Amache for the first time.
It has really been emotional. Standing on the foundation of the barracks where my family lived for 3 years was really quite something. I'm Janet Hamada, and I am the ancestor of my father, my uncle, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, who are all incarcerated here from 1942 to 1945. The one story that I remember more than anything was that my grandmother said she used to wake up with the outline of her head on her pillow from all the dust.
The dust and the sand.
Robert Hamada was brought here when he was just 7 years old.
He didn't remember very much. I think he's sort of blocked it out.
They were told right after Pearl Harbor that they had to evacuate or get prepared for evacuation. Of course, first curfewed, so they couldn't leave their homes from dusk till dawn. They were brought to the Merced racetrack and put in horse stalls. About 4 months later, they were brought all the way out here. But they made the best of it as much as they could, even though there were guard towers and barbed wire and armed guards. They created a whole town here. My father just moved on with his life and made the most of it, to say the least, and never really looked back.
I'm emotionally undone.
Yeah.
Having lived with my husband for so long, knowing how he began. And he was the dean of the University of Chicago's business school. He went from here to becoming the dean of a business school. My father-in-law did say to me that he would not go back to the West Coast, to LA or Livingston, where there were signs on the windows that said no Jap haircuts. So he went to New York City.
Then my grandfather had a camera. So this is from
Yeah,
his
he was
camera.
always taking pictures, fortunately.
And I've taken it upon myself as a fourth generation Japanese American, a Yansei, to tell the story. I'll never forget. And I don't want the world to forget. I don't want Americans to
Well, this
forget.
should never happen again.
No.
What a lot of people don't understand is that the people lost everything coming from the West Coast to here.
But despite losing everything, those forced to live at Amache still chose to serve their countries.
You know, Amache, for example, it was the smallest of the 10 internment camps, and yet it had the largest volunteerism to the U.S. military. The Japanese American units were the most decorated units in World War II. We actually have a Medal of Honor recipient here. We also had 31 men that died fighting for the United States from Amache as well.
And even after World War II, internment camp survivors continued to volunteer and serve, including Bob Fujigami. Coming up next, Bob Fujigami shares what life was like after Amache closed. When Amache closed in 1945, many survivors found themselves in need of a new home. A natural pick for some was Denver, about 3.5 hours away from Amache.
Governor Carr, who said, hey, we shouldn't be treating people like this. I mean, if you could do that to Japanese Americans, who's to prevent them from doing it to any other person? And so people remembered that and then said, oh, Colorado is the one place where we can go. My family ended up in Greeley, Colorado. And I joined the Navy from there. I was giving a talk at Regis, and I got through it, and I opened it up to questions, and there's a black guy in the audience, students, and he said, why would you go into the Navy and after all they did to you? And I said, that's a good question, because I've been thinking about that. And I said, this is my country. I said, this is your country. This is our country. And when your country needs you to fight for your country, it seemed natural for me to serve. I serve my country.
As Bob reflects on his time immediately after Amache, he remembers how the civil rights movement of the 1960s sparked a change in internment camp survivors and their descendants.
We went in at a different time in the U.S. where we did what we were told. We didn't argue, we didn't have demonstrations. This was before the time of Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement and all that, We put up with a lot of things that we shouldn't have, and we did it without protest. Japanese Americans, for example, kids who came after the time of who experienced civil rights movement, they were very angry at their parents and grandparents, and to people like us who went through it for not protesting when Martin Luther King and the others were protesting in the South. And I was at the University of Hawaii. I remember we sent a delegation to support the movement. That's why when you see in some of the protest marches, you see people wearing leis.
One way Bob is standing up for justice is by pushing to preserve the place where he was imprisoned for 3 years.
The chair now first recognizes Mr. Bob Fujigami in 1942.
On April 14th, Democratic Congressman Joe Neguse and Republican Congressman Ken Buck introduced bipartisan legislation to designate Amache as a National Historic Site. Bob Fujigami testified before a congressional committee to advocate for this.
Local high school students at the Grenada High School watch over the cemetery and help preserve the area. But they cannot stand alone. They need the National Park Service to help ensure this place is protected, preserved, and interpreted for future generations. Making it a national park becomes a place where history is remembered.
Bob Fujigami watched the sun rise and set over this place more than 1,000 times.
It's a part of my life.
And after 91 years of life, Fujigami hopes the country does everything it can to remember a time when American citizens, men, women, and children, had most of their earthly belongings taken from them and were imprisoned for years at internment camps on American soil. In Grenada, Colorado, I'm Denver 7's Micah Smith with photojournalist Dominic Lee.